Hey guys, Mike here, and this is the new Adams Arms Small Frame 308. It's a lightweight, piston-driven 308 carbine, and it's based on the AR-15 receiver as opposed to a standard AR-10 receiver. This rifle comes from the factory with a soft case with pouches on the side and one Generation 3 SR-75 style Magpul magazine. I have to tell you that I got a little concerned when I saw a couple of guys posting on AR15.com and they had what sounded like some major undergassed problems with their guns. They were not cycling reliably, and I was pretty concerned about it. So what I did was went ahead and just took this out while I was doing another video review, just to do a couple of one round in the magazine test and then run a couple of magazines to make sure that this gun wasn't grossly undergassed and wasn't working at all and needed to go back to the factory. When I did the initial one round in the mag test using the P-mag that this rifle shipped with, the bolt did not stay back. At that point I was really concerned that maybe this gun was undergassed, but I had an IMI Defense magazine, and I went ahead and put one round in that magazine and test fired that round. Now I felt a little more confident that maybe the gun wasn't undergassed and maybe the problem was just the magazine itself and its interaction with the bolt hold open device. So I went ahead and loaded up the IMI magazine first with the rest of the 18 rounds from that one box and ran through them without a problem. And then I ran through 10 rounds going back to the P-mag, and once again the gun ran fine, but the bolt didn't lock back. I've got 10 rounds loaded in the P-mag, and let's just see if this is going to work. Okay, it functioned fine, but it's still not holding the bolt back. So at this point I felt like I could go ahead and proceed with our evaluation of this rifle. The Patrol Enhanced model ships with a standard A2 style birdcage flash hider. The barrel is 16 inches, has a 1 in 10 twist rate, and the barrel as well as the gas block and drive rod are melanite treated. The gas block has 3 positions like the standard Adams Arms gas blocks. I did have an opportunity to talk to Adams Arms about the undergassed issue they were seeing with their early rifles, and the problem was they were testing with a relatively inexpensive 308 ammunition, but it happened to have higher than usual pressures. And now they have started opening up their gas ports and doing their factory test firing with several different types of 308 ammunition to ensure that the rifles will function with a variety of ammunition. So that problem has been identified and addressed. These rifles are upgraded with Magpul Mo handguards. They use standard delta rings on the front of the upper receiver. The upper and lower receivers have the life coat treatment, and life coat is just a trademark, and it refers to a variety of different coatings depending on the particular part that it is being applied to. The receivers have type 3 hardcoat anodized treatment, but then they have a 3M dry film lube applied over the anodization. The trigger guard is integral to the receiver. The receiver is cut for an ambidextrous bolt release. They're still developing that product, and it will be available at a modest cost as soon as they have it developed. This model comes with the Magpul K2 pistol grip which has a more vertical angle, similar to the angle seen in the 1911 style pistols. The receiver extension is a longer than standard carbine receiver extension, similar to the Voltor A5. They do make their own receiver extensions. They use a standard carbine weight buffer, and their spring is a heavier weight but a carbine length spring. The stock is a B5 stock upgrade from the standard carbine stock.
Now let's take an up-close look at some of the internals.
I went ahead and took off the handguard so we could see the drive rod and the barrel. It's a very nice looking barrel. Voodoo Tactical, melanite treated. Drive rod was melanite treated. The gas block is melanite treated. You have the 12 o'clock standard operating position, and then you have this 2 o'clock position on the side. You can turn it completely off if you go at a 90-degree angle, and then if you go to the other side all the way over to that 90-degree angle, that's the disassembly. It just slips out nice and easy. One issue that I saw on AR15.com, one person posted they were having problems with this rifle, and what he had done is he took this apart to inspect it and clean it initially, saw this collar, thought it needed to be turned around, and he turned it around, and that caused multiple failures. He finally figured that out, put the collar back, and his rifle was functioning fine. The finish we talked about earlier, this is a life coat. And when I was talking to the reps at Adams Arms about the gas problems they were having, I asked them also about life coat. Specifically, I couldn't tell exactly what it meant when they talked about the receiver. It means a lot of different things depending on which part, but on the receiver, this has a very nice, smoother than typical finish, and I didn't know if it was Cerakote or what they did. And basically, what they do is they do your standard bead blasting, then they take the receivers and do a finer glass bead blasting than usual, and then after that they do the type 3 hard coat anodizing. And then on top of the anodizing, which was done on a smoother than usual surface, they then put this dry film lube coating over the anodization, and it really is just a very nice finish. I don't know if you can appreciate that on the video, but it is a very smooth, very nice looking finish. It is a type 3 hard coat anodized plus, so it's extra work that they've done to make this a very nice finish. Let's now look on the inside of the receivers. The fire control group does have a coating. It's a PVD type process that they coat their entire fire control group, and the trigger is smooth. It feels very smooth. There's no grit. It is a military standard trigger, so it's not a light trigger or a target trigger, but it comes very smooth from the factory. One thing I found very interesting is that the buffer is just a standard 3-ounce carbine buffer, and I probably am going to go ahead and put a H1 or H2 buffer in this. We will be doing some test firing with our drop-in auto sear, and to prevent bolt bounce, I'm going to see if we can't go ahead and run a little bit heavier buffer. So we'll take that out. Now the spring is a carbine length spring. I counted about 38 coils actually, but it is not a standard carbine spring, and Adams Arms said it was not a standard 308 carbine spring from an AR-10. It's not quite as stiff as an AR-10 spring, but considerably stiffer than a standard carbine AR-15 spring. This is a nice stock. It's a B5 stock. It has a nice rubber butt pad, but I like the Voltor E-Mod. That's my favorite stock. So it has a little bit larger butt pad and an angle that just feels more comfortable to me. So we will upgrade this stock and use this stock on some other build. We'll go ahead and just look at this buffer tube.
Once again, this buffer tube is longer than a standard carbine buffer tube. If we go to the area of threads, you can see the difference in length. Now, one thing I'd like to just show that this is basically an AR-15 from the rear of the magwell back. This is what makes this a small frame. It's in the family of AR-15s. It's not an AR-10. So you can see the dimensions of the receiver, and the only place that it changes is forward of the bolt catch. Here you can see the cuts for the ambidextrous bolt stop. And they did assure me that once that was completed, that they would have that offered to owners of the small frames for a very modest price. Now let's take a close look at the bolt carrier. The bolt carrier is different than an AR-10 bolt carrier. It has the outside dimensions, if you will, of an AR-15. However, it's obviously considerably longer and beefier in the front. The Adams Arms is a one-piece bolt carrier. There's a bolt head spring that puts a little forward tension on the bolt. This comes apart just like you would expect. The firing pin does have a PVD coating rather than the hard chrome coating. A very beefy cam pin with a round head and a very beefy bolt. There's the bolt spring. One thing I would like to point out, there are a couple of changes that I think are very significant. The lugs are radiused, and I think that is a very good design. It decreases stress and therefore decreases the chance of failure of these lugs. Very similar to the design seen in the Knight's Armament firearms. Not quite as rounded as the Knight's. It also has this very large kidney-shaped ejector, which is supposed to be more gentle on the brass as far as reloading goes. Well, we got this rifle back together again. We changed out a few components and we added backup iron sights and a telescopic sight. I think we have this rifle ready now to go out and do some real test firing. When I field test this rifle, I'm going to be looking mainly at reliability and not really checking the accuracy of this rifle. I'm taking this approach for two reasons. First, it seems like there were some real reliability issues with the first rifles being released, and a rifle has to be reliable above all else. And secondly, as far as accuracy goes, this Voodoo Tactical barrel comes with a lifetime accuracy warranty that it will shoot 1 minute of angle or less with match grade ammunition. So we're not really going to be concentrated on the accuracy. The first thing I did was exchange the standard A2 birdcage flash hider for this Gemtech quick mount Vortex style flash hider and suppressor mount. The Vortex flash hider is one of the most effective flash hiders out there. But more importantly, in this situation, we need to be able to mount our Gemtech TPRS suppressor so we can test this platform with a suppressor on as well. This rifle doesn't come from the factory with any sights, so we added these Troy backup iron sights. They're very nice military quality iron sights. We also added the 2.5 power primary arms compact prism scope. It has an etched reticle that is also lighted, so it's a very functional scope for short to medium range use. I've also added the little adapter for our trustworthy 3-buck brass catcher. As far as the furniture goes, just as a personal preference, I changed out the furniture in the back of the gun to my favorite, a Magpul Myad grip and the Voltor E-Mod stock. There was certainly nothing wrong with the pistol grip or the stock that came on this rifle from the factory, but these are just my personal preferences. I've also changed the buffer to an H2 buffer and installed my registered drop-in auto sear and changed out the corresponding fire control group. Now I'm going to grab a few different types of ammunition and we'll take this rifle out to Bullet Creek and see if we can get a real feel for its reliability and try to define any issues that show themselves. We'll test the gun suppressed and unsuppressed, semi-automatic and full auto. We'll really try to wring out any issues that come up regarding reliability with this rifle. It should be a lot of fun, so let's get out and do some shooting. The name of the game today is reliability. This rifle appears to be a really good bargain with a suggested retail price of a little over $1,400 and a market price of just under $1,200. If you look at what's on the market these days in a small frame 308 piston driven rifle, there are guns on the market now with a suggested retail price of more than $1,000 above this rifle. But no rifle is a bargain at any price if it's not reliable. This gun got a little bit of a bad rap right out of the gate when some of the early production models appeared to be undergassed. Now this isn't a special rifle. I bought this from a dealer through Gun Broker. It's just the gun he happened to have in stock. So what we want to find out today is this rifle going to prove to be reliable? If so, I think it's a really good bargain. What I'm going to do today is test 5 different rounds. We're going to use the 1 round of the magazine test, both suppressed and unsuppressed, and make sure that the bolt holds back, signifying that this gun is getting enough gas to operate properly. We're going to use the IMI defense magazines since those magazines reliably seem to hold the bolt back as opposed to the Magpul magazine that shipped with this rifle. We're going to be going from very cheap ammo right up to the very best ammo. We're going to start from left to right using the steel-cased Chinese copper-washed round. Then we'll look at the steel-cased polymer-coated Russian round. Then in the middle we have Radway Green. This is British NATO 308 ball. Then next to that we have the Portuguese 308 NATO ball. And then on the far right we have this very nice Federal 130 grain SOST open tip match. Very high performance round. So I'm going to run through unsuppressed setting each of these rounds and see if the bolt stays back. Then we'll turn the gas setting to the suppressor mode, put the suppressor on, and run through each of these rounds again and see if we still get the bolt staying back with each round. This is our Chinese copper washed round. The bolt did not hold back. Let's try that again. Okay, this is the Chinese copper washed round. Bolt did not hold back. I think this is the IMI. Oh, wait a second. Okay, the PMag. Well, unfortunately, I shot the Chinese stuff in the PMags, and so we can't really judge whether the bolt held back. We're going to start with this Russian steel-cased polymer coated. Let's see if this holds the bolt back now with the IMI magazine. Nope. Okay, next we have the Radway Green. Let's see if that'll hold the bolt back. Yes, and it feels different. You can tell that that round just has a lot more power. Now we'll go to the Portuguese NATO. Yep, feels very different. Now this is the very high performance 130 grain SOST round. So the 3 NATO rounds held this back without any problem. I didn't bring any more of the Chinese out. I do have plenty of the Russian with me, so we'll go ahead and suppress this. And interestingly, what I think I'll do is when we use that steel cased Russian ammo, I'm going to put the suppressor on and leave the setting at 12 o'clock, see if the bolt stays back when we increase that back pressure a little bit. Then I'll turn it down to the suppressor setting and see if the bolt fails to hold back with the suppressor on when we cut the gas down. Okay, Russian steel cased, suppressor on, but leaving it at 12 o'clock. Okay, the bolt held back. So in this situation, if you wanted to use a suppressor and the cheap ammo, you can leave it at the 12 o'clock. Now let's turn it to the suppressor setting and see if the bolt stays back. So we got 1 round. Okay, the bolt held back that time with the suppressor. So that is functioning okay. Now I'm kind of curious. We'll give this Russian one more time. We got to turn the gas setting back to 12 o'clock. With the suppressor in both settings it stayed back. Let's give it one more try. Okay, so now the Russian seems to be working fine. So we'll shoot some more of that and see how it does. Now we have the Radway green British. Let's go ahead and go through all these rounds now with the suppressor on. We'll turn the gas down. All right, let's see if the British works. Okay, held back fine. Okay, this is the Portuguese. Held back fine. This is the Federal 130 grain. Okay, held back fine. Okay, let's do a little full auto test. Now, this is the Russian steel cased, and I don't really trust the quality of it, so I don't really want to try to do a magazine dump completely. So I've got 5 rounds in the magazine back to the 12 o'clock position. And we'll try a registered drop-in autos here. We'll see if it holds back when it's empty, and if it can do full auto. Okay, 5 rounds, and it held back on the 12 o'clock with the Russian ammo. Very pleased with that. Okay, here's the ultimate stress test. This is 20 rounds of Portuguese. Oh my word! Oh, okay. Woo! Holy moly! Portuguese 308. Bolt held back. guys, what can I say? I think the proof is in the pudding. This firearm has certainly proven itself to be reliable today, and at its market price, it is certainly a fantastic value for a small frame piston driven 308 rifle. And I have to say that all of you guys out there with registered legal drop-in auto sears, this makes one heck of a host. The gas adjustments prove to work well with the suppressor, and even with the cheap Russian steel-cased rounds, this gun functions very well. I hope you found the information interesting and useful. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you have any questions or comments, as always, post those and I'll try to respond to those in a timely fashion. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.